whereas we're individuals. We don't know what the gifts of the red are, the question mark. We don't know what the gifts of the blue are. As we put them into a process that is a process that we designed, the boundaries start to be lessened up. There are still distinct identity boundaries, but a lot of the work that we do is finding common ground. Let's not focus on the differences, let's focus on the common ground. What we did was getting divergence of, in an appreciative way, right? Looking for the gifts. We're not looking for deficiencies. It's not that they aren't there, but it's not useful to put your energy or your focus onto it. We do that all the time. People complain and bitch, you know, and it drains your energy. I'd rather talk about gifts. Once we share that in the common ground, now what we're doing is as we're doing gift discovery and emergence and then exchange, now we're not even looking at the common ground necessarily. We're looking for the stuff that I cannot do, that you can do. And that's what gives life. That's what gives nurturing associational life. So this is what we just basically did. Okay? And I think it's a process, you know, we did it in less than an hour. If we actually did it with a real association, a real group, we could actually drill down more and actually do a gifts inventory and keep adding to it. And it's something that doesn't cost money, something we don't have to wait for the city or the government to do. We can do it. All we have to do is have the right talent, and I know there's a lot of talented people here in running meetings. We've got the right stuff. We've got the power to do what we want to do. Yes?
Can you do this about different communities, like the gifts of communities rather than the individuals also?
You could do that also, but you always start with what people know, the individual, and then you start what we call harvest, the collective gifts that's in the room. Okay, so?
It seemed like a lot of the gifts that we did were kind of more personality or kind of individual gifts in a sense. I mean, do you do this also more broadly in terms of the resources I bring to the table, the connections I have, that kind of stuff?
It can, and I want to stop there because I want us to actually get it back into the experience, and we are here to talk more about what the applications are in the theory. But here's one way of thinking about it, and this is like a, what do you call it, mnemonic device? I can never say that. Right, but we actually, we're such a skills based focused culture that sometimes it's easier to start with talking about skills. But basically John McKnight and Peter Block say there are different kinds of gifts. We have to recognize all of them. Gifts of the hands, you know. Are you a carpenter? Can you build something? Can you play music? Gifts of the heart, you know. I am a good listener. I listen with empathy. Or, you know, Abby, you know, I know when I got a bad problem, I can go cry on her shoulder, right? She nurtures. Gifts of the head. What is it that you know? You know, what is it that Martine knows about the National Deliberative Democracy Movement? How do I go talk to him? How do I get these great PowerPoint slides, which I still want? And then gifts, teachable. Gifts are not gifts if they're not given or received. They don't exist until they're given or received. So the teachable part is like, what do you like to do? What are you good at? And what can you teach somebody else? So we sometimes, if we had more time, we could actually parse it out a little bit. But yeah, we didn't have time, so we wanted to just let that be ambiguous. So here's the exercise before we get back into the theory. You got your exchange. I want you to each go around. This is how we're going to close out. I want you to name what gift you want to bring back to your neighborhood and community. Name it, and then I want the person who has that gift to walk up and sit next to them. Okay, so we're not going to get to everybody, but we're going to do a little bit. So who wants to start? We'll do popcorn here.
I'll start. One thing that I saw up there that I wish I was better at, I come from a very whitewashed background, and I'm comfortable talking about race, but I don't know that I know how to talk about race.
And who offered that
Someone
gift?
said they, there we go. So there we go.
Wonderful. Who else wants to go?
I come from a community that talks a lot, so knowing when to shut up. Can you take that back? That's it, thank you.
I can't help you, Jack.
Full-time focus.
Oh, that's you.
Actually, is it?
Oh.
There you go.
I had that too, Martine. But you don't have to come over here to like Twister or anything.
And the point there was I have the advantage of this is my full-time work. You know, I get to do this. That's what we meant by that. So, whereas most people have to do it on the side. Or
Let's do a couple more, and then I'm going to give the floor to Jeff for a comment.
Humor? Who's funny?
It was you.
Yes.
I'll come to you, because there's no chance.
Yeah, so why don't people start to group up and cluster up?
There's that one.
I get it for it, it's full sign, yeah.
Okay, let's take one more, then we'll do a quick wrap up. which I- Somebody else want
Talking
to?
about race and racism.
It's like congregation.
That's
Anybody have a burning desire to get one more?
Manages communities.
Managers communities, who had that?
What was it? Was that me?
Managers communities?
Is it like managing and supporting?
Good
Isn't that
memory.
like-
Yeah.
Isn't that Andrew?
I had managed.
Yeah.
I do community assistance,
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
but I don't know if that was what
There
was
you go,
on
Rhonda.
mine. My card.
There's your night.
I forgot what I put there.
Okay, so you get it again. If we were actually doing this with an organization, neighborhood, community, you can see how this can really drill down. There's another way of doing it where you're not doing it in a group, but we basically do a open market exchange, kind of like open space, where you can either do your name, write your name, but it's basically all about exchange. It's not about me, one-to-many conversations, about many-to-many conversations that you guys experience, and that's where the vitality comes out of.
Well, just another little spin on how to use a process, a gifts identification process. Has anybody ever taken everything out of your cupboard, all your baking stuff, and just put it on a big counter just to look at, well, what are we gonna make tonight? And just to see everything that you've got. So that's sort of like an appreciative inquiry is a little bit like what we're doing here. This is often has a human element. Well, once you see all the gifts, and as Rex said, you can drill down. Well, what does curiosity mean? Or you can put a different context around it. In the context of race, what does curiosity mean? In the context of housing, in the context of crime. So you can put all kinds of frames around these things to drill down and get a more detailed, so if you're baking a cake, you look at flour differently than if you're doing some main course, like, oh, the chicken and the flour go together for fried chicken. So the context makes a big difference. So however you do that, you've got a whole bunch of gifts up there. Then you look at that and you just ask the community. In the context where we're in, safety, children, how do our youth develop better? Well, what do these gifts add up to? And so then there's another brainstorming process. But it's the tangible result. What can we actually bake with what can we make? And then when you do that, then you say, okay, then you have to whittle that down. Okay, you might have 50 things or 20 things, 5 things. What are the top 3? Usually as a community can handle. Or you just leave it wide open. Who wants to take on one of these? Okay, well this one over here, I'm willing to lead this, and we need these gifts from the community, and just like Rex did here, who can contribute those gifts to make this happen? And then you've got little action teams. And you might have people overlap, things like that, but it's just another way to spin this whole thing, so just want to throw that out.
So to respect people's time, we're going to be here if you want to talk more about things that we can do, creative ideas. We're all process nerds. We talk theory, we talk application, we talk design. But for people who need to get going, you're allowed to leave. But we're going to very quickly do what we call harvest, and this is the light bulb stuff. And here's the question, and not everyone needs space, so this will be popcorn. What are you taking away from this group? What's a takeaway? What's an insight? What struck you?
It's more about the process, not about the actual gifts.
About this process of doing this. Well, I was just thinking that this has so many applications. I was just thinking about my own workplace where we try to do all this work in the communities, but there are so many people in our organization doing so many different things that are compartmentalized in their own departments. And if we knew what everybody's gifts were, we could find ways to cross-germinate our ideas across departments to be more effective and to bring better tools and advice and services to communities if we knew all of the individual gifts that every individual employee has, but that might not have a moment to shine because of the department that they're in, but that could be utilized in a wonderful way by a different department.
That's great.
Uh,
I just think it's really interesting to look at the individual gifts and then see how it kind of applies to the community, because we usually look at the community gifts and kind of from a broader perspective, but just to see how the individuals are really important, and then also move into action and have the community.
The aesthetics of the process really struck me. I mean, it was something, and it's not, that was more on the outskirts of what we were doing, but I think it's very much a part, like y'all were looking for the window, and thought you were gonna bust down the whole wall just to get the lights, But
Could you feel the difference?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely. Big
Windows
difference.
are, well, there's actually psychological data that shows that when
Yep.
people think bigger and better when there's windows, well, art on the walls. In music, we didn't bring that today, but I always had music playing before and during the breaks because that's silence at the beginning. Somebody actually said, you know, don't worry, there's no tension in that silence.
I love that we're speaking with our feet because it's so hard to ask for help verbally, but you're not asking us to say, you know, who can help me for my become more humorous. Instead, I just say I'm looking for humor, and then that person's coming to me. Actually, it's making it a whole lot easier on me. So I love that because it's so hard for us to ask for help.
Yeah.
For me to stand up and say, where can I go? Someone's actually coming to me, and that's what we all really secretly want. And this totally feeds into that, and that's awesome. Yeah.
My contribution is pretty similar to the last two things that were said. I just like the setup, that it's actually really informal, but I feel like I got a lot, and you didn't have to talk at me the whole time.
And in building community, in community work, the informality is huge. You know, and if you can put live music, you know, bring some church choirs in the morning, and then just get fun, then the food and all that stuff just adds to the sense of I want to go. Because, you know, a lot of folks say to me, I don't want to go to more meetings because they picture a conference room table and we're in the lights, and you just want to you can't sit there and listen to people drone on. And another great thing about the small groups is everybody gets to talk and everybody gets to listen. And it just gets people, their energy going. And then the movement too, it just, especially at this time of day, Rex said, I want to make sure these folks move around. Rex did, thank Rex, because he carried Peter and I did very little other than put the tablecloths down. For this
So
thing.
let me go to cookies. Let me give you one other thing, is you know, you can share gifts like this in a group that basically it's biased towards extroverts. You know, the reason why small groups are so good is it gives a space for people who typically don't talk in large groups to share. So you know, we don't have time for this, so I'm just going to ask for a couple people who want to share. But here's something else you can do to respect the introverts: is that small group that you started out with. We close out. We're always about building connections deeper, deeper, deeper after every interaction. And one way to close out in recognizing gifts is, now I want you to tell. So if you're sitting in a group of 3. Tell them a gift that you got from this meeting that you wouldn't have gotten before. And you get people to kind of connect on a deeper personal level. Because you find in all these conversations, the personal is also very universal. You see a lot of universal things, but you also you dig deep into that. So that's another way of respecting and closing out, and you know, share a gift that you got from somebody in your small group. But we're not going to do that. So anybody want to share, think about your small group that you started out with. And let's just take a couple. Share a gift that you got, that you just got, that's a takeaway.
Well, from Emily and from Abby, both gave me a great gift. You know, I do a lot of work in communities, and you wonder, well, who else is doing this? Who cares? And they're both, they're so contagious in their excitement for doing this work that just re-sparked, you know, my own excitement in doing this work, knowing that there are people coming up behind me who are going to continue doing this work in other areas of the country where I may never go and with people that I may never meet. And it's a real gift to be able to know now that there are real live people out there doing this and that it's their passion. It's not just, you know, something on the side.
And for it to be received is
Thank you.
okay. Somebody else want to give a gift?
Martine gave, and Elise, they gave many gifts. I just don't even know where to start. But I don't want to paraphrase because he said it very well. So if you could just share that, because you wrote it down. It was really good.
Oh, the one you wrote down?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were just talking about our gifts, and so one thing that came out of it, which is actually the first time I ever came out of my mouth, and then we liked it, so I wrote it down, is that if I don't understand someone, then I assume I'm missing a piece rather than assuming they're missing a piece. You know, so I tend to do a good job in terms of words are escaping you. Assuming people have good reasons for what they believe. So if I'm not seeing that, I'm not asking the right question, right? Kind of takes belief.
The responsibility's on you
Yeah.
to understand, not on them to communicate.
Right.
Okay, how about one more gift exchange, given and received? Anybody?
I just really like Tony, but I don't know backgrounds.
And I love the gift I got. There's other people who like to draw. Thank God I'm not crazy. So thank you. This is going to be a formal end of it, but if you want to stay and chat, we'd love to chat. So thank you all for this experience without it being here, without your participation.